social worker, career counselor, teacher, social worker, clothing designer, author, leader for women's rights, and a pilot. In 1923, I became the first 16th woman to get its pilot's license, but as a leader in aviation, I had already begun setting records by then. In 1928, I became the first woman to be flown across the Atlantic Ocean. But I was only a passenger, so I felt like a sack of potatoes. The most frustrating thing was that the pilot was paid $20,000, the co-pilot was paid $5,000, and guess what I was paid? Nothing. But I earned money from writing newspaper articles. The flight took 20 hours and 40 minutes, which was also the title of my first book. I became a celebrity and people started calling me Lady Lady. You know, some people thought that I could be related to Charles Lindbergh because we look so much alike. GPP, George Putnam, asked me to marry him many, many times. In 1931, I finally agreed. However, most of the women that I knew quit their jobs to become housewives after they got married. But I did not want to do this. I wanted to keep flying, so I decided to send him this letter. Dear GPP, there are some things which should be read before we are married, things we have talked about before, most of them. You must know again my reluctance to marry. Work means most to me. Please let us not interfere with others' work or play. I may have to keep some place where I can go to be myself, now and then, for I cannot guarantee to endure the confinement of even an attractive cage. As a leader in women's rights and as a leader for aviation, I thought it would be helpful to create an organization composed of women who fly. Here's a letter I wrote to another female pilot about creating an organization. On September 15th, 1927. My dear Miss Nichols, because your picture has been appearing lately in the Boston papers, I make you the victim of an idea which has been simmering for some time. What do you think of forming an organization composed of women who fly? Personally, I'm a social worker who flies for a sport, and I'm on the board of directors of an astronomical concern. I cannot claim to be a feminist, but do rather enjoy seeing women tackling all kinds of new problems. New for them, that is. I hope to hear from you. Very sincerely yours, Miss Amelia M. Earhart. I became the first president of the 99s, an organization composed of women who fly. The reason it's called the 99s is because it started out with 99 members. My second book, for the fun of it, was dedicated to the 99s. In 1927, Charles Lindbergh flew across the Atlantic Ocean alone. Exactly 5 years later, I did the same, becoming the first woman to fly across the Atlantic Ocean alone. 14 people had died trying to do this. The flight was very scary. Whenever I flew higher, I got ice on my windshield, and when I flew lower to get the ice off, there was so much fog that I couldn't see. I repeated this many times. Could you believe doing that for 19 hours straight? But when I landed in an open field of a farm, I was very relieved. I received many awards after the flight. I received a Distinguished Flying Cross from Congress and a gold medal from the National Geographic Society. I was the very first woman to receive both of these awards, which is a part of my legacy. I always took the time to talk to reporters and fans. I also gave speeches about equal rights for women. 4 members of the National Women's Party and I met with President Hoover on September 22nd, 1932 to ask for equal rights. Mr. President, I know from practical experience of the discriminations which confront women when they enter an occupation where men have priority and opportunity, advancements, and promotion. In aviation, the Department of Commerce recognizes no legal difference between men and women licensed to fly. I feel that similar equality should be carried into all fields of endeavor so that men and women may achieve without handicap because of sex. As far as our own country is concerned, in every state of the Union today, there are discrimination against women in the law. I joined the National Women's Party in hoping for the speedy passage of the Lucretia Mott Amendment, which would write into the highest law of our land that men and women shall have equal rights throughout the United States. I was good friends with Eleanor Roosevelt. We were both leaders for women's rights, and we were both daredevils. She loved to drive cars, and she got criticized for that. And I love to fly planes, and I get criticized for that. I encouraged her to want to fly, and she sent me this letter at it. My dear Miss Earhart, I am enclosing my student pilot permit. The question now comes as to whether I can induce my husband to let me take lessons. I will let you know if I am successful with him. I have chance even to talk to me about it. Very cordially yours, Mrs. Franklin D. Roosevelt. P.S. I have talked with Franklin and he won't let me now. Perhaps later I can persuade him. George Putnam and I were invited to stay at the White House. The First Lady wanted to see what Washington, D.C. looked like from the night sky. We flew over the city wearing our fancy evening gowns. In 1935, I took a part-time job at Purdue University. I helped teach classes and I met with female students to help pick out jobs. Even if the jobs they picked out were unusual for women, I encouraged them to follow their dreams. Purdue University bought me a new plane for my next adventure. On June 1st, 1937, I took off to set another record. I planned to fly along the world's equator. When I landed in Ley, New Guinea on June 30th, I had traveled 22,000 miles. I only had 7,000 miles left to go. My next stop was Howland Island, which is a very small island. Sadly, I would never arrive. One of the largest search parties in history tried to find me. I have been gone for 77 years now, and my legacy lives on. I was, and still am, a leader and a role model for many women around the world. I was on the cover of Smithsonian Magazine on January of this year. From the U.S. Post Office issuing an air mile stamp in my honor, to having a mountain and a national park named after me, to Google celebrating my 115th birthday with a doodle. My legacy lives on. As the first president of the 99s, my legacy lives on. In 1940, they created an Amelia Earhart Memorial Scholarship in my name that they give out to female pilots around the world. Thanks to the 99s, my legacy also lives on at my birthplace museum. My legacy definitely lives on at Purdue University. Many female students there look up to me as a leader. There's a residence hall and a cafe named after me there. They also created an Amelia Earhart Scholarship that they give out to students yearly. Over the years, many female pilots have retraced my flights. This past July, Amelia Rose Earhart successfully flew across the world's equator in a single-engine plane. Even though she thought related, we sadly aren't, but she helps carry on my legacy with the Fly with Amelia Foundation. Maybe the mystery of my disappearance will be solved one day. Maybe not, but my leadership and legacy will live on in the hearts and minds of others for years to come.